Welcome back to the Lawnpro tutorial for time tracking. This is part 2. In the last section, we reviewed how to interface with the database using all the drop-down menus, with primarily the drop-down menus that we use being the date and time range function, the employee, as well as the customer. We know we also can do properties as well. The category is less used, and that pretty much is the summary of the first section. In the second section, we're going to begin to learn how to actually enter in a time. To enter in a time, we'll use the green Add Time button, and that will launch this new screen. From here, we will select an employee. For the purposes of this practice, I'm going to select myself, and I will select Kumar Gonzalez and have a label for an employee as me. And then we will pick a customer. Let's just use, say, for example, Depot Lawn Care. We'll use Depot Lawn Care as that won't interfere with any real billing. The property of Depot Lawn Care is at this address. And the category of work, when we manually want to enter something, is going to be called B2 hourly work. That will always be the default that we use whenever we're mock entering data, B2 hourly work. Next, we'll just choose the day as the start date, and the start time, we'll say that I worked. Actually, you know what? Let's switch it to as if it were yesterday so that it makes more sense. Instead of using Thursday the 20th, we're going to use Thursday the 19th. So whenever you do your practice examples, I want you also to use some time period in the past. Make sure you go at least one or more days into the past. Everything will work much better that way. So I'm going to choose July 19th. And I'm going to say that the start time when I arrived at this job was 9:30 a.m. Notice how that did not stick for me. I need to be a little bit more careful when I actually type in the time. I have two options. I can use the arrow menus, and then once I get to the end of one of these boxes, I will sometimes have trouble transferring that data here. So it's a little bit easier sometimes to actually just type in the 9:30 and then the letter A and then hit enter. Ooh, that did not work for me there. Let me try that again, and then I have it entered here. I believe we're having a little bit of a glitch here. Not sure why that's still showing there. I will click here to try to make that go away. Let's just say, for example, I worked till 10:45 a.m. at that one job. I'm going to hit enter after that. And, well, that was not what I meant to do. Let's take this opportunity to find the entry that I had just attempted to make. We know that the filter for the date range, the one that I was trying to enter in, would have been yesterday's date of the 19th. So I'm going to use that shortcut there. And the employee that we were looking for was Kumar, employee. So we'll use that as our first filter options, and then we'll hit apply to look for the entry that I just made. And here I see the B2 hourly work designation, and the time was 9:30 to 10:45. Now I did not mean for it to end that abruptly. We're going to try that again and find out exactly what I may have done wrong. So we're going to add another time. Once again, the employee will be Kumar, employee. For this example, whenever you're practicing, you can use yourself. And then we will select the customer, and that will be Depot Lawn Care. And you could choose any other customer that's in the test account if you'd like. It doesn't really matter. And then we will have the property assigned as Elizabeth Street. The category will be B2 hourly work. And the date, again, we're going to say is the 19th. Once again, I'm going to type in the time to follow along with the process that I started before. Instead of continuing right at 10:45, I'll assume that there was some drive time and I arrived at the next job at 11 a.m. I'm going to try to just click away to see if I have better luck with that, and I guess that is better. Click away better than hit the enter key. Next, I will work there till, we'll say, 12:15 p.m. I will click away to store that. I don't need to write any notes, and I will add time. Now I have my second entry, so the day started for me at 9:30 at my first job site, and then I worked till 10:45. There was some drive time in between. I worked from 11 a.m. till 12:15 p.m. And then let's just say, for example, it was time to take some lunch. I'm going to click add time one more time again. I'm going to choose Kumar once again, Kumar employee, and the customer will be Depot Lawn Care once again because I'm entering a lunch break. Depot Lawn Care is the lunch break selection. It's just sort of ironic that I was using the customer as Depot Lawn Care, but at other points, if I were going to take a lunch break and I was filling out some time for an employee, the lunch break would be under Depot Lawn Care because Depot Lawn Care is essentially the customer during a lunch break. The property will be Elizabeth Street. The category this time, instead of using B2 hourly work, is going to be lunch. We'll choose lunch. The date again goes back to the 19th. The start time for that lunch will start roughly after we left the customer's house. That last time entry was, I believe it was 12:15. We'll say 12:45. They arrive wherever they're trying to take their lunch, and they will be clocking out of the job clock to start their 30-minute unpaid lunch. So 12:45 starts the lunch. I will click away. I need to edit that to go to PM. And then they have 30 minutes, so they would have until 1:15 p.m. to eat their lunch, and then everything looks complete, and I will add time. Alrighty, so now they have a lunch. They have B2 hourly work, another B2 hourly work, or I guess in reverse, B2 hourly work, B2 hourly work, and then a lunch. Perhaps after the lunch, we're going to have one more work session. We're going to go ahead and fill that out. This work session will be a little bit longer than the other ones. Once again, for Kumar, the employee. Oops, there we go. That's correct. Choosing Depot Lawn Care. Choosing Elizabeth Street. Try that one more time. My category is going back to B2 hourly work. The date is the 19th. Start time we'll say was 1:45, and that is PM, and that will be something that they do until say 6 p.m. There we go, and then I will add time. All right, so there I've got a mock day's worth of work, and this is not exactly how we would do it, but this is just an example of exactly how to enter in some time for an individual in order to just practice how that is done. We will take a break there for 1 minute. Alrighty, and we're back. So we want to take a look at some real data. This was just mock data, unless someone has had an error in their time tracking capacity. This isn't really what it would look like. This is a manufactured, repaired time clock for someone. Let's give it a good look at some real times. We're going to switch away over to an employee. We will say we will use Mr. Trent Coakley. And we'll go ahead and use his July 19th date as well. And we will hit apply. So here we have some time for Mr. Coakley. You know that this was legitimate, accurately timed track time because the event title for his personal clock is available right here. You do not see the B2 hourly work. You actually see an event clock. And that event clock, just so we can get a good idea of exactly what we're talking about here, if I were to use this other window and take us over to the schedule, and I clicked on the today view and took us to grid view, which is the most common used view. Let's get over to grid view. Alrighty, now this is what we're referring to here. We're going to go ahead and group these by crew, and we're going to go to July the 20th, which is the day before, using that rear arrow, and then I can find Mr. Trent's events here. And let's see, I'm on, hold on just 1 second. Alrighty, so I was able to clear up the filter, and you can see Trent's original event that he was working off of is here. It is this personal Trent clock in at shop at 7 a.m. and it shows July 19th, and the event is closed because it was in the past. So this event here inside the calendar, it corresponds to the time tracking that he was taking here. This is July 19th. And so whenever you have a legitimate track time event, you will see that it looks like this, where the subject line of that event is being transmitted here. If you needed to edit something here, you would drop back to this event and then edit this event title, and you would be able to modify the event title inside the time tracking. If we needed to modify one of these, I will go through the process of doing it, but I need to be careful because these are real time. So anything that I add here, I'll need to delete it. Anything that I need to add here, I'll have to edit it back. But the process will be roughly the same. Instead of going to add time, let's simply click on edit, and we're going to edit, say, his clock out time. So it'll be easier for us to correct. I'm actually just going to extend his actual clock out time for the day. So instead of saying he clocked out at 5:40, we're going to make it 6:40. So we'll come in here and we can edit by pressing the pencil. And I'm not able to edit as many fields as I could originally. Here I can change the category. I can't modify his name. I can't modify the customer, and I can't modify the address. So if I needed something fresh where I had to change what was already predetermined inside the event, I would have to use the add time green button that we already learned before. If I'm just modifying this, all I can do is change the date, and I can change the start and end time. And now that the event has been created, it also comes now with an hourly rate. So I could also update the hourly rate. And then notes for the time tracking, they can be helpful, but we usually do not use them. So let's continue on with what we came to do. Let's say we're going to make his clock out time, instead of 5:40, we're going to switch that to 6, and we'll make it 6. We'll leave it at 6:40, so it'll be easy to correct. We'll make it 6:40. We don't need to add anything. If we needed to update the hourly rate for any reason, we would, but we don't. We leave that there, and then we hit the update button. All right, and so now we see that the time of his clock out reflects 6:40. And that's just how simple it is. Let's say, for example, we knew that he had a late work that went beyond 6:40, and at 6:40 he actually just took a pause here, and that was it. But he forgot to clock back in because he left for a few hours, maybe had some dinner, and he came back, started doing some office work, and he forgot that he actually didn't clock in. So we have two ways to do that. We could go over to the add time button and do it manually. That's one way. But there's another way. We'd love to have it look somewhat official if we can, depending on what it is that we're trying to do. Sometimes when we add and correct an individual's time, we signify that we were the ones who added it and corrected it. We'll go through that example first. I will click add time, and I know I need to add it to the Trent employee there, Trent, and he's Trent 1 essentially there. And the customer will be Depot Lawn Care because he's doing work, B2 hourly work for us. Depot Lawn Care, and then the asset there will be Elizabeth Street. The category will be B2 hourly work, generic category. The date is the 19th. The start time here, we're saying that he took a break from 6:40 to about 7:40 to say have some dinner. So he's coming back, we'll say at 7:40 p.m. Click away. And then we'll say he works for an additional 2 hours to 9:40 p.m. All right, we'll make those entries, and then we will click add time. Now that we've added that time, the first thing we'll notice is, hey, how come I can't see his work? The Lawnpro software ends a person's work shift at 7 p.m. and that's the latest that it will show up here. If I want to see anything that happened after 7 p.m., I have to come in and have to switch the calendar from July 19th to include July the 20th. And so I'm going to do that now. I have to go into the custom range view. I'll have to use July 19th and July the 20th. It'll turn green and I will hit apply. And then I need to actually ratify that and hit apply a second time. And when I do, if I start at the bottom of the screen where it was the 19th, I will see that I get my 6:40 p.m. And then, interestingly enough, there's a general work category that was already present for the 19th at 5:40 to 11:59. We couldn't see that one before because it contained times that included times past 7 p.m. And so we hadn't pulled that filter. But this is a situation where Trent forgot to clock out, and that's the reason why it has 11:59. And then the manual entry that we made is this one, the 7:40 to 9:40. So this clock needs some help. The first thing is that we're going to have to remember this, or we would write notes, but we know that at 5:40 was this original time, and that's the reason why from 5:40 to 11:59 this was what was called general work, the general work category. So we can actually delete this at this time. I can delete this, I can make that go away. That is general work time, and just knowing from an advanced level, that is something that later will be cleaned up by payroll. So I'm going to do them a favor and clean that up now, just to make it a little bit more clear for our example. So now we can see that he was working at 6:40, and then the next time he got back after he had dinner was 7:40. He worked till 9:40, and that rounds out the last of his July 19th times. And then this morning here on the 20th, you can see that he clocked in at 7:16, and he is still clocked in from that time. So that's just one example of how you would insert some time for an individual. Sometimes you will need to open up the filter to the following day, because if it contains a time later than 7 p.m., you won't be able to see that unless you do. Here, we're just going to take this and revert it back to the way it was so that Trent's time is not inaccurate. So in order to do that, all I have to do is just delete this time. This will disappear. The B2 hourly work will...
Order filled. Order cancelled.
All right, and so that one has been deleted, and now we need to edit this back. Instead of saying 6:40, we need it to say 5:40. So we will click the edit button, scroll this back down to 5. Everything looks good there, and we will update. And then it goes back to normal. So that's one example of how that can be done. That is an example of how you can edit time and then add time for an individual. And we will essentially show the one last item of the day. So anytime before you go to actually modify someone's payroll, especially if you're just learning, you'll need to take what we call the freeze shot or the freeze frame of all the payroll data. And this is very similar to creating a statement. You'll simply come up here and hit, let's just say I went ahead and click the print button here. I'm going to have to place this somewhere. For now, I will just take it and move it to my desktop just to have an easy place. So you will create a folder for yourself to store it, or you can leave it on the desktop. I'll just leave it on the desktop for myself now so that I can quickly come in here and open it. And when I do, I can see all of Mr. Coakley's times. Once I store this, if I ever make any edits and I need to restore them, or I make any errors, I can easily use this as a way to know exactly what it was that I was doing, what were the times as they were originally, and then I can restore everything the way I need to. And this would be saved on my Depot Lawn Care folder or on the desktop, wherever I would need to. So definitely practice that. All it takes is just to hit this print button. Well, that concludes the time tracking module, part 2. And be sure that when you begin to practice this, you are in the test account and not in your real account. Do not use the real account to modify anyone's time. Please use the DLC test account. Thank you very much.